All right, so I'm pretty excited to show you guys our new ESC. We showed a little teaser, and Alex happened to be here. So he got to be the first one to actually test the actual production sample. We've been testing this ESC for a little while. It actually, here we got one. I'll show you. It actually was a little different than the first one. Basically, it's something that was a little harder to mount. And this is the actual production sample of what we're going to production with. This one's been hand assembled, but we're testing them now. And then once we know they're completely solid, which all tests seem to show it is, we're going to go straight to production. Anyone that has ordered one of our other ESCs, if they haven't got them yet, they're going to receive either, there's two versions of this. There's one with the super powerful FETs, and there's one with a little weaker FETs. So depending on if it's like a Spark V2, which was made more for 3-inch, maybe you want the least powerful one, and then the more powerful one is going to be like the Bolt 32, Spark 32 replacement. So they're both super powerful. Basically, if you want to do really high KV 6S, like the crazy stuff we've been running, you're going to want this one. What's funny about these FETs is they are the most powerful FET we've ever tested. We actually will show you a little test here. And it was actually, we pretty much maxed out the quad, and this is all we could push at continuously, but it did over 180 amps continuously with no airflow or anything like that on it, and had zero issues. And you can see in the video that it basically didn't have any overheating issues. It was nice and cool, and it did everything we hoped it would do. And so this ESC, we're pretty confident is going to be the best one ever made. Now, something that makes it even better, not only is it powerful, more powerful than anything else we had, but we did a few things on it to kind of make it even cooler. All right, so some things we did with this. This has two resistors here. It's basically a different current sensor. It's going back to the old type of current sensing, which doesn't use BL-Heli-32, which allows us to get the readings actually a little faster than they are, so that'll help us with some of the stuff we're doing. And also it simplifies it, so we can actually make this ESC this small without having different current sensors on each motor. We have the FETs here. You can see they're directly coupled. Here, go ahead and flip that over. They're directly coupled to the pads on the bottom. And so what this lets us do is have the maximum power. The less distance they have to travel, the more power it's going to be delivered. They're directly coupled, direct vias through the FETs, which is awesome, and it just delivers maximum power. It's an F3-based ESC. You can see the F3s here and the FET drivers. What else is cool is we have these little solder pads. If you happen to break off the connector on the other side, you can still solder to it. They're labeled pretty clearly. You can solder however you want. When soldering this, right on this side, you can see there's a plus and minus. I don't know if you can see that, but it's written on the copper, so just keep in mind that when you're soldering. This is always on the positive, the resistors, so that's going to be the positive leg. We put all the capacitors and everything in the middle, and the FETs moving to the outside, which is going to minimize interference when going the flight controller, which will give us less issues like some people have had with interference, and they've had to space them out or use the foil. So that should eliminate that as well. What's really nice about this too is you have the 30x30 holes on the outside, which use gummies, but you can snap those off and actually make it smaller. They're real easy to break off, but they shouldn't break off in a crash. And honestly, if it's a hard enough crash they break off in, you probably just saved your ESC, which is a benefit, because if it's hard enough to break that off, the force went somewhere, it snapped it off, you're still going to have 3 to mount it by. That's actually kind of a nice safety feature to help prolong your ESC. If you use the middle holes, they don't have the gummies in them, but you're going to want to use some sort of O-rings just to dampen them, because you can see the components are pretty close to the holes. We've got them as far out as we possibly could to make these holes this size. It almost had to be an M2 ESC to have the full power in this size, but we managed to do it. So just make sure you use an O-ring so you're not knocking off any components when you're mounting this. And like I said earlier, we're going to actually have some new gummies coming out too as well. But this should be great.
Did you mention the fact that because it has 20x20 and 30x30 holes, if you have a frame that's only 20x20 or 30x30 capable, you can basically use those holes to mount the opposite flight controller. So if your frame's 20x20, you can use the 30x30 holes, put a screw through there and put a 30x30 flight controller, or vice versa, which is a feature that none of the other ESCs on the market.
So this is actually really cool, because you could even mount the 20x20 in the middle, and then for extra dampening, it'll only be attached to these holes, which will probably actually eliminate a little bit of the noise and a little bit of the vibration, which actually might even make a cleaner thing, especially for a freestyle build or something like that. So this is kind of cool. It's pretty creative what you could probably get away with, and this is the future, I think, of ESCs. I mean, the fact that this will work equally in both sizes of frames, and you see these FETs we're using here. I'm not sure if I even mentioned this, but these metal things in these FETs, they do something magical to these FETs, and they're just super powerful and super great. They have a different FET without those, and it's not just near as good. So this FET's amazing. Most powerful FET we've ever tested. You can see in the video here. You can see in this video we're going to actually go over 180 amps, which is the most we could actually pull with that quad. No airflow. You can see it's it's yellow, so it's not too hot, and it's pushing 180 plus amps continuously for over a minute.
Powerful 迷你射183测试。
So it's super powerful, it's super reliable. We're really pleased with this ESC, and I think it's going to be the best ESC that the market's ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. I've been running DMAG off on it on super high KV 5S and 6S, and it's just been doing great compared to the Spark 32 and Bolt 32, which are already very powerful ESCs. So yeah, for the size, it's got the most power.
So first, before you do anything, I want to show these guys like how small this is. Ooh.
Yeah, compared to the Spark 32 that I used to run on this frame in particular, and on all the other frames for that matter, this is like way smaller. As you can see, it's kind of like the old Spark V2 where it's almost the same exact size as the flight controller. And like Preston was saying, you can actually just trim these 30x30 tabs off.
They just snap off, like bend them, basically.
Right. I'm not going to do that in case I ever need to run a 30x30 flight controller, and it's really not that much space. But as you can see, when we take the flight controller off here, we have 2 O-rings underneath the ESC. And that's what we used to do in the past. And then we have, since there's no gummies on the 20x20 part of this, I have 2 more O-rings on top of the ESC. And then I have a nylon lock nut to just basically squish it down a little bit. The reason you want to do the nylon lock nut is if you just try and do two O-ring spacers and then pop your flight controller on, it's going to be a little too free moving. So in a hard crash or something where the XC60 pulls on the ESC, it could jerk the ESC and cause something to fail.
Something I should add too, we have a new gummy coming that actually is basically 2 O-rings integrated in the bottom. So on the bottom of this, you'll put that new gummy and you don't even need the O-rings.
Exactly, but just in the meantime, when you're using this, 2 O-rings on the bottom, 2 O-rings on top, and a nylon lock nut, and then you can just put your flight controller back on like so, and then it's going to be a nice, perfect fit. So yeah, as you can see here, the ESC mounts really well with this combo, and I've been flying it on 2450 kV 5S DMAG completely off, and no desyncs whatsoever. You can actually notice when you're flying it that it's, when you pump the throttle, the quad just stays way more locked in, and you can really feel it in corners. When you're like moving the quad around, it just seems like it's more in control than the Spark 32 was and the Bolt 32 was. So I think it has something to do with just more powerful ESC. So I don't know how ESCs work, but it feels way, way better to fly.
Yeah, so basically we went to an F3 based ESC. We did so that helped us with some CPU load issues. That helps us run D-Shot, an upcoming Falco, 32 kilohertz even. It also, helps with noise. The way the ESC is designed, it's less noisy, so that should get you a little more power on the top end. And the power being delivered to the FETs directly makes a lot big difference. So we should see a little bit more power even on the top end and a little better, smoother performance. So for freestyle, it's going to be smoother, and for racing, it's going to be more powerful and smoother at the same time as well.
For its size, it's definitely, and just in general for multi-rotor purposes, this is the best ESC you can get. The most powerful for racing and also for keeping your quad smooth. So for freestyle, this is going to be awesome. And yeah, I'm going to be putting these in all my quads once you get enough of them.
Yeah. So anyone that, I think I reiterate this, anyone has orders in the place, you're going to get, there's 2 versions of this. There's one that's a little less powerful and one a little more powerful. What's cool about this design is we made it so we can use both. So depending if it's a Spark V2, you're going to get it replaced with a little less powerful version of this. If it's Spark 32, you're going to get the more powerful version. So anyone that has orders in our system, that's why there's been some delays. We don't want to make thousands of the old ESCs knowing this one's coming. And so we only, have been producing limited quantities to cover the orders we have in there. So if there are any delays, this is why it is. And once this is tested and stable, and once we've gotten a huge surplus of FETs, we're going to be, having these out, and we won't have any demand issues. The initial batch, we're going to have, probably about 500 made. So we're going to have a little bit of demand issues with those initially, but hopefully that'll resolve really quickly because we've actually placed orders directly with the manufacturer for the FETs. I think I talked about this as an American company, On Electronics, based out of Arizona, based down the street from us. And so these are amazing FETs. They're great FETs, and they're super high quality. I think that about summarizes it. If you guys have any questions, please comment, click the little bell wherever it is, because the way YouTube works, it doesn't necessarily notify you of the videos unless you actually click the notifications. So make sure you click that, and make sure you ask any questions and comments, and hopefully like it. If you don't like it, just, you don't have to do that. Just like it anyways.
Hey, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. That's what my mother taught me. So.
So anyways, it's good. If you have any questions, or I don't know, whatever.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.